do this all day. A bunch of a-holes. Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Hello and welcome back to the Infinity Saga and Beyond. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and with me today, breaking down Loki, is Matt Hartgrove.
Wow.
You sound just like Owen Wilson. Yeah, this is the big moment is here. Loki has premiered finally, and it's weird. It's on a Wednesday. So I'm going to have to find time to watch this when I'm down there. I think I'm bringing my Chromecast or something and hooking it up to the Wi-Fi and just Chromecasting it from my phone to the TV so that way I don't have to watch this on my phone.
Yeah.
But you think, it'd be cool if Disney hotels just let everybody watch Disney Plus? Like, just equip each room with, like, a Fire Stick and Disney Plus or something? That'd be cool.
I watched something in a Disney hotel room on Disney Plus. I thought it was Mandalorian. I felt like I stayed at Riviera once. Yeah, but it might have been just like us taking the app on the phone and then like putting it up into the TV.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing.
It was pre-COVID.
That's what I'm going to be doing. So hopefully, that's good because I hear episode 2 is really great because the people reviewing it got to watch both the first and second episode.
Yeah, that really tricked me. I actually thought we were getting 2 episodes.
That would have been great, but nope. It's only 6, right? So I think that's why they're just doing one at a time. But yeah, so we're talking season 1, episode 1, directed by Kate Herron, written by Michael Waldron, and it is called Glorious Purpose. It aired on June 9th. On Disney Plus and was 52 minutes long. We had, and next week I think it's 55 or something. So we have 2 really long episodes of Loki, which is great compared to some of the shorter times we had to start off with WandaVision and with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So really pumped to kind of, this one especially needed the 52 minutes. It needed to set everything up here. So we'll do a quick what's the Disney Plus synopsis? Let me look that up real quick. I'm sure it's something nice and generic. They love giving us.
I never even read it.
I usually read it before this to like. Okay, here it is. Oh no, it's actually pretty long. Okay, here we go. After picking up the Tesseract in Avengers Endgame, Loki finds himself called before the Time Variance Authority. A Kafkaesque bureaucratic organization that exists outside of time and space. Nice and long there. If this was WandaVision, it'd be like, the events of Loki begin. Synopsis. What was your initial thoughts before we deep dive into this episode of Glorious Purpose?
It was really good. I'm excited for the show. Something about it. It seems like they're setting up this show a lot more so in terms of future movies than the others. That's what it feels. That's what it like in generically felt like. More of a bridge to the next set of movies than the other TV shows, where that just kind of felt like a background story, or kind of more so deep dive into a character, which they did kind of with Loki, which we'll get into. But I don't know. It felt like it was a really fun episode, especially Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston. Their dynamic looks to be incredibly impressive. I'm pretty excited to see how they get on it throughout the show. Some people kind of said the show's going to be kind of like a Doctor Who type of deal. Unfortunately, I don't think that's I see where they're saying it, but Doctor Who's method of time and this method of time is a little bit different. So I don't think it's going to be exactly, but I'm excited. It was a really good episode. Hopefully it's the worst episode, because if that's the case, then it's going to be an amazing series.
Yeah, this is I really enjoyed this as well. I'd kind of heard from the reviews that this was a lot of build up in this one, a lot of talking, so I wasn't upset by it. I think some people may have been thinking it was a little, too much going on there, but I kind of had the heads up from the reviews and know that, like this one is the one that builds it up. Episode 2 really takes off. And what I also read in the reviews is something that you kind of mentioned, is that they kept saying this is the show that shows where we're going in the MCU, right? Like WandaVision and Falcon the Winter Soldier are like picking up the pieces of Endgame and still kind of like, where do we go from here? This episode is like, this is where we're going from here.
I like
this
that,
one seems to be tying in with, and I'm going to bring up some, I guess, thoughts of this, but I think this ties in very well with Multiverse of Madness, probably, and with Spider-Man No Way Home, from what we've heard rumor-wise of that one. So I kind of had a thought it would start off here. I liked it. 2012, we start off in New York. We see the same events from Avengers and Avengers Endgame. Kind of get a recap of that, where Loki gets away with the Tesseract. That works well as well for people that may not have watched Endgame. It's hard to believe people haven't, since it is the biggest movie of all time until Avatar just retook it again. But I'm sure there's somebody that's like, you know what? I'm just going to sit down and watch Loki randomly out of order. At least it kind of catches you up.
It'd be so weird if I don't know. I can't imagine.
Well, that was always what was weird too, is like when you'd see, with how much money Endgame made, there was people that had not seen any movie except for maybe 2012 Avengers and Infinity War who went and saw Endgame. I always feel like I'd be completely lost if I just went to a random movie, especially this one where it's all connected and stuff. But Loki gets away with the Tesseract. We get to see all that stuff over again. Then we get the credits, like the Marvel logo. And then we see him end up in the Gobi Desert in Mongolia. And we have these Mongolians approach him. And Loki starts speaking. He says, "I am Loki of Asgard, and I am charged with glorious purpose." That is, the title of the episode. So there you go. The TVA arrives. The Time Variance Authority arrives and puts a time charge to reset the timeline as they carry him away. I also like that the one guard, or Minuteman, I guess is what they call him, is hit him with some sort of stick that like changed how time affected Loki. Like he was going super slow. I think they said like 1/5 speed or something, and everybody else around them is going normal speed. So I thought that was pretty cool. And for everybody that doesn't know me, most people know my favorite movie is Back to the Future. I am a big time travel guy, so I think I'm really going to love this show. I love the Time Variance Authority so far and how they kind of explain this in it. I think, like, I just love everything about time travel. It's been with me since I was a very young boy. Some of my favorite TV shows have dealt with time travel. Like Lost and 12 Monkeys. And
you ever watch Doctor Who then? That's like all about time travel.
I watched, I think, one episode of the Chris Eccleston Doctor Who and then never touched it again. Yeah.
Well, go to David Tennant. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I think I love David Tennant, so I think that would be good. But yeah, it was the one with, like, I don't know, mannequins, dolls. It was like the first episode of the Chris Eccleston's one. But
I didn't really ever watch his.
Did not keep my interest, which is weird because I'm all about dorky stuff like that. So and time travel, but I'll have to give it another try at some point. Then we get the TVA headquarters. Loki tries running away. The guard just rewinds him with the time twister. I thought that was pretty cool. Also, Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban. My favorite Harry Potter movie. Time travel in that too.
Or is that the one with the time thing?
Yeah, with the time turner. Yeah. They put Loki in the elevator, if you want to call it an elevator, I guess. The machine takes off his clothes, sends him to a desk where he has to sign everything he's ever said. This was in one of the trailers, but I really like this bit where he says what, and then it has to print out another page, and he has to put that on top. And then he says something else, and then it has to print off again. And eventually he just signs it. But I just love, like, Matt, you're usually somebody that's, I guess, pretty good about this kind of stuff, contracts and stuff, I would assume. Are you reading all of that to verify that's everything you said, or are you just signing it?
Never. Never. I'm just signing it.
I think I would flip through a little bit. I think I'd have to flip through a little bit, just be like, oh, let's see how legit this is, you know? But yeah, I'm probably signing. I'm not reading the whole thing.
No.
Especially Loki is like thousands of years old, so maybe our stacks would be a little smaller, but
yeah, I know we'll get to it, but that's what I kind of liked about the fact that, in a way, like the TVA seems like a very, I wouldn't say supernatural, but it's like it seems more like Avengers, like, oh, these superhuman beings, but then like you have like the one guy who's just like a normal guy, and he's getting like, I don't know why, I just thought that was like really cool, because you just think of it as some like Marvel universe type deal, and it's like, no, there's like anybody, like just normal people coming in here because they're variants, is what they call them.
The like Italian American guy that was in there or whatever.
Yeah, so it's like there's got to be like, he probably has like a incredibly small one compared to Loki, with how much he's pretty much said over his entire life.
Yeah, I would definitely have to skip the parts where I'm flipping through the podcast notes of like of everything I said. Like, no, I've already listened to that a million times while I was editing. Do not need to verify if I said that stuff. We get to like a metal detector that determines if he's a robot. Because some people don't know they're robots. Loki's a little scared to go through it. He goes through it, nothing happens because he's not a robot. But if he was, they said he would like disintegrate or get terminated pretty much. Sends him. Now that I called this the DMV line in my notes here. It's what it kind of reminded me of. That you could say a deli line with the ticket, but the DMV used to have those. I think they still do have the paper tickets. Last time I was there, I had to get a number, and they had to call my number up.
So I haven't done that. They do it all through my cell phone down here.
Oh, wow. Maryland, not so much. And we get the guy who you're talking about does not take a ticket. Loki does. And before we get to that, we get the Miss Minutes video. So Miss Minutes, who's probably going to be a big star here. I don't know if she's going to be in more than this episode, though. I mean, I don't know how many times they would need Miss Minutes, but it's a fun video. This sets up probably what I would assume. This sets up Multiverse of Madness, Spider-Man, Loki. I think it might set up everything. It's
kind of. I would say it was like, it's such a quick little, not meaningless clip, obviously, but it's like a, if you're not paying attention type of deal, you're gonna sit there and go, oh wait, was this some like little video I was supposed to be watching? Because it did seem subtle, not irrelevant, but like it was interesting.
Yeah, this is what she says. Long ago, there was a vast multiversal war, nearly resulting in total destruction. The timekeepers then created a proper path of time. Some people go off the path, whether they're just late for work or do something completely different that they're not supposed to do, and these are called variants, as you said. Going off the path leads to a nexus event. We've heard that word nexus with Wanda and WandaVision as a nexus being. So is that tied to it? Maybe. which could lead to another multiverse war if the paths continue to diverge. And I put in my notes, is this Doctor Strange or Spider-Man movie here? You know,
Yeah.
then they have to sit trial for their crimes. And they're really good about this slogan, for all time, always. I said, that's a nice shirt. Hopefully I can get a shirt with like Miss Minutes on it or the TVA logo that says for all time, always. And if not, I'm going to get my sister to make one or something. But yeah, that'd be really cool. Yeah, very short video, just kind of talks about that. So I'm assuming, you know, where we're going from here. This might also set up Ant-Man, Quantumania. The villain in Ant-Man is Kang. Kang is a villain that uses time travel and rules throughout all these things, trying to set the timeline right. So maybe he... Yeah, I just think this... some people think that he's somehow... some version of Kang is going to be in this show at some point. I don't know. I mean, we heard all kinds of rumors about WandaVision that turned out not to be true. So just keep all that in mind when you're speculating this stuff. But yeah, I think this might be where we're going with Phase 4 is all this multiverse stuff. And this kind of tells you this is what can happen. And I think maybe we will see another multiverse war. Maybe that's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Maybe it's Quantumania. I don't know. The guy who doesn't take the ticket gets asked for a ticket. He immediately blames the guy who told him to take a ticket. He says, that guy didn't give me one. And they just like disintegrate him. I guess
nice ending.
I guess it would have happened anyway, right? Like he's supposed to go to trial, but they never put the people back. So I assume he would have just been reset, they say, right? So I don't know. But yeah, he's just disintegrated. And I just love Loki immediately frantically looking for his ticket. So after all of that, we now get the Loki logo or theme song, whatever you want to call it, pop up. And then we end up in France, and we have Mobius, played by Owen Wilson, in France, 1549. He's investigating a crime. People have been killing their Minutemen. I like the name Minutemen, too, because it's very historical with, like the Musketmen people or Minutemen. And then also with time. It's just a really good name. But what I also liked about this, and I think this is probably how the show's going to go, it almost seems like a detective mystery type thing. Especially when you see like the Mobius things, and he's like studying the crime scene, and then he starts interviewing a witness, you know, like if that's how they're going to keep going with this, and they're going to just go to different time periods doing that, I think that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it seems like it. It when you are watching, even when it comes to like some of the bits and pieces you were hearing about the show, it seemed like it had a good chance of being like a crime, a time. I don't know, like the best, not time heist, and not what the
time crime, time crime.
Yeah,
solve?
like a time. It's like a time crime show where Loki. Personally, like I thought it was because he was gonna go. Loki's this like badass type of guy who knows how to handle big villains to an extent because he's Loki. So that's kind of how I thought it was going to be brought up. And I know it's actually a little bit different when we get to the end of it, but a lot of it did seem like it had a good chance of being like a crime show where we're going to, maybe not exactly, I don't think all of them are going to be like historical events, maybe not like certain places in history that we might recognize, because obviously it's a huge universe, so we could go into like different planets possibly. I don't know, maybe that's kind of going too far with it, but it did seem like they had a good shot, so I am happy that it's gonna go that direction.
Yeah, Mobius sees a kid who witnessed it. He has this cool machine, like smartphone, that lets him draw a stick figure, and then when the kid taps it, like the stick figure pops up and starts walking. That was pretty cool. Let me know when you make one of those, Disney. I'll buy that. Kid shows him a piece of gum, like a gum thing, because I think it was called Kablooey or something too. But the kid's mouth was like blue, so Owen Wilson Mobius asked him about that. Pulls out the gum. The murderer gave it to him. Mobius asks who did it. The kid points to a mural of the devil. And
Mephisto.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are thinking. Because we just want to keep guessing Mephisto for every single movie that happens now. Another guy comes in from the TVA and he shows Mobius a Loki file while they're getting ready to reset. And let me tell you, this makes a whole lot more sense once you get to the end of the episode. Like rewatching this, I was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. The first time watching, I'm like, why does Mobius even care if this is Loki? Like, what, why? But when we find out, and we'll just talk about it now, I guess. We find out that the person at the end who's doing all of this stuff is Loki, a variant of Loki. So this makes sense then that, like, the guy comes in and says, hey, I know you're already tracking one Loki variant. Look what we got now. We got, maybe it's the same one, maybe it's a different one. This is a Loki variant.
I don't know. I was kind of, like, shocked at it. I actually thought, before obviously the end when they said it, I legitimately thought it was he sees Loki as this like secret weapon he can use and possibly use him just in general with the TVA and be like, hey, you're gonna work for us, now, like, we're gonna get you squared away here, and yeah, you're a variant, but you're smart, you have a sense of danger in terms of who you are. So I guess to an extent, I actually wasn't exactly happy it was a Loki versus Loki thing. I was kind of hoping it would be, I don't know, I was hoping for a little bit different angle on that, but
I think what it is, I think you're kind of right in there as well. Like, I think maybe they give, he gives the file like, hey, we got another Loki variant. And either they think, maybe the guy handing it to him thinks, hey, maybe this is the guy and we called him, or maybe this is just like Owen Wilson Mobius is thinking, well, if I can get into Loki, I can have him help me kind of get in, kind of like when they pull like another serial killer out of jail, or consult a serial killer in jail by saying, can you help us catch this other serial killer? But the thing is, with the TVA, it's Loki. So it's like, you know yourself better than I do. So you can kind of help me figure out what's next so we can stop this type of thing. Like, kind of get in the mind of the murderer, but it's the mind of himself.
It's which makes a lot of sense when you are watching the episode. I guess if I were to watch it again, when they're doing the can't think of
interrogation.
That interrogation makes a lot of sense when you get to the end of the episode.
Yes. Yeah. Because he even says at one point, oh, you do know yourself, when he comes back into Loki.
That's where I'd have to see it again.
He does. I'll tell you when he says it when we get back there. But we get to Loki's trial. Loki points out it's the Avengers who caused this. He smelled 2 Tony Starks with his cologne, and they must have messed up the time thing, and they were going back, so it should be them, not him. And I like that they brought that up, because I was wondering, like, oh man, are the Avengers going to be in trouble with the TVA for what they did? No, because what the judge says is what they did was supposed to happen, but you escaping was not. And Loki says, according to who? And that's when they say the timekeepers, the ones that keep, the flow of time the way they want it, pretty much.
I don't like go on like message boards for like Marvel stuff, because I feel like there's just a lot of detail that people always like to go into and items with that. But I feel like if there is a common complaint somewhere about that breakdown of like, oh, like the Avengers did all this, how could they not be? I think it's such a simple answer. That's not what was supposed to happen. That was supposed to happen. Like, there doesn't need to be a like full on detailed conspiracy theory. No, this is what was supposed to happen.
Right.
Like, don't try to question too much into it. Like, they were supposed to do this. They were supposed to get the stones, take them back, save the world from Thanos a second time. But you were not supposed to get the Tesseract. Like it doesn't sound super exciting because it isn't like some super detailed like theory that breaks down and brings in Mephisto, because I feel like that's what everyone likes to bring into their theories. But I don't think it needs to be sometimes. I think sometimes it can just be a simple, no, that's what's supposed to happen. Just deal with it.
Yeah. If you as a writer tell me that you at least thought about it, then I'm going to take your answer. You know, like in this case, it at least shows that they sat there and thought, well, would the Avengers have gotten in trouble for this? No, the Timekeepers wanted it to happen that way. We'll bring it up so that way if anybody questions it, it's there. And I respect that.
Yeah.
I don't need it to be this whole thing.
There'll still be people questioning it because they'll be like, that's really all you got? Like, I bet I'm assuming there's some message board out there that people are like, that's really the best they can do. It's like, well, you don't need to be much better than that. It's pretty simple. You don't need to make it as crazy as you might assume.
Yeah, the Timekeepers are good guys, and they don't want everybody to be dead, so they allow the Avengers to go do that.
Mm-hmm. We'll get to that point with honestly, like that's another situation that pops up eventually is the Infinity Stones in the drawer that we'll get to, where I again think it doesn't need a big explanation. I just think it's a very simple one, and people feel like get a little upset, but I'm like, not everything needs that kind of background. They just need an answer.
Right. Loki says he is guilty of this, and he tries to use his magic, but they tell him it's no good in the TVA, and he's found guilty and planned to be reset. Mobius stands up. He says he knows what Loki is capable of. This again makes sense because he knows what he's capable of because he's been studying these crime scenes. He's probably been studying Loki as well. But he kind of gets leeway to take Loki for further study, I guess you could say. And I really like this exchange between Mobius and Loki as they're walking back and they're going to the elevator. This was a lot of stuff in the trailer, but one, when he's talking about burning this place down, and Mobius says, "Oh, you can start with my desk," right? And then when we also get how he says, like, you love to talk, like talky, and Loki says he doesn't like to talk, and him saying, well, like later on, like, I think you lied because we know you love to talk. And then there's another part where Loki is talking a lot, and he says, "I thought you didn't like to talk." Which just thought Owen Wilson was really great in this episode.
It was It was kind of like the bromance type of thing I was hoping between Bucky and Sam.
Yeah,
that was the kind of comedy I was hoping to get a lot
of. So Mobius takes him to like this movie theater type thing almost where he's able to like display memories and the history of Loki, which I thought was really cool. Mobius also tells him that time works differently in the TVA because Loki asked him how long he's been there. He doesn't have an answer for that because he doesn't really know, because time is not, it's outside space and time. Time doesn't really exist in the TVA. Anytime Loki tries to run, he's able to use the time twister or try to attack Mobius. He's able to use the time twister and reverse it. I also thought this line was really good by Mobius here. For someone who is born to rule, you sure do lose a lot. Like, what a burn.
I guess, like, because he has no power, I'm not saying he doesn't have that kind of confidence in general, but, like, he knows Loki can't do anything to an extent. So he can say what he wants, and he's going to be completely honest with him because he wants to get into the mind of Loki. And to do that, you have to piss him off.
Right. And like you said, he's able to just reverse it if something happens. So it's like he's not really going to be in any danger. And it's very classic, like, Owen Wilson played this perfectly like a detective does. You know, like I've been watching a lot of true crime stuff, and you kind of sometimes see these interrogations where they're either kind of really hard on them or sometimes switch it up to almost agreeing with them. Like in this one where, Loki thinks he's mocking him. He's like, "Oh no, I'm not mocking you. I'm a big fan of yours." You know, like I hear that kind of stuff when I watch that stuff, and you're like, man, it's just it feels so like mystery based, and that's one of my favorite genres as well. So it's like time mystery is like really great combination so far. He shows him. They watch him as DB Cooper, which is really cool.
That was cool.
Yeah, if people don't know who DB Cooper is, this is a real case. You can look it up. I've actually just recently watched a lot of stuff about this case as well. It's one of my favorites to read about and watch stuff about because it's very bizarre. A guy goes on just by the name Dan Cooper onto a flight. This is back before, like we had the TSA and all that kind of stuff. Who was searching everybody in metal detectors. You could just pretty much do anything in the 70s, I guess. Walks on the plane, gives the note to the, like the air stewardess, I guess is what they're called, and tells them that it says he has a bomb. They make a stop in like Seattle so that way they can get everybody off of there. He asks for $200,000. He gets the money. He gets he also asked for some parachutes. And then he wants to go to Vegas or Reno, I think it is. And somewhere between Seattle and Portland on a rainy day, he jumps off of the plane and apparently, according to this, gets zapped by Heimdall and back to Asgard. But he's never been found in real life. Some of his money has been found.
That's spooky.
Yeah. I think he got away with it, man. But if you look at what's really good about this, too, is that Tom Hiddleston actually is a really good... Like, if you look at a picture of DB Cooper, you can see the Tom Hiddleston in it for, like, the sketch. Like, the sketch artist made that. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. Just worked perfectly for this.
I was actually... Because that was a clip that they put in previews,
yes,
I think.
Yeah.
I was actually happy it wasn't like a... It was just like a small little bit in the first episode.
Yes.
It gives you so much more idea. Because I thought that was going to be like a whole... That's why I was thinking like, oh, history, crime fighter type deal. That partly is why I was thinking that. But I'm kind of happy that preview-wise, we haven't really seen what they're really capable of.
Yeah. Me too. When they first announced this show, they said it was going to be like Loki throughout the ages, and this was before Endgame premiered, so maybe even before Infinity War premiered. So it was sometime, I think it was after Infinity War, but before Endgame. So we already knew he was dead, so we were thinking like, okay, this is going to be like kind of like a prequel of him just kind of living out his life and him popping up in different historical moments. But we didn't know at that time that we were going to get an alternate universe Loki who escapes with the Tesseract. So I really like the way that it went with that. Then he shows them the events of the Dark World, where he accidentally leads the Dark Elves to his mother. They kill her. His mother is really one of the only people he really loved in Asgard. So that's pretty rough. He doesn't believe it true at first. He's thinking like, this stuff hasn't happened to me, so like he doesn't believe this. But Mobius tells him the TVA knows your whole life, not just your past, but your future and anything else that's to happen, which he said should be reassuring, but I find it not reassuring. And then Guard comes in to talk to Mobius. Loki sneaks I guess it was the time twister out of his pocket and reverses time far enough where he's back to like when he first entered the TVA. And he sees the guy that they gave the Tesseract to, and he starts following that guy. And that's when we get the whole exchange of gonna gut you like a fish. The guy doesn't know what a fish is because he doesn't actually exist in our world.
I really enjoyed that. That
yeah.
little bit was really funny.
And Loki's like, well, what does it matter? He's like, I want to know what I'm being threatened against. I mean, I want to know what's gonna happen. Yeah, and then we get the Tesseract, and like you said, in this drawer, we see a whole bunch of other Infinity Stones, and he's like, that's when it hits him, right? That it's worthless there.
Yeah.
Because if you just had all this stuff in there, and he's like, some of the guys use them as paperweights or whatever, it makes you think like, yeah, this doesn't mean anything here.
Yeah. The idea that bothered me, I saw a couple of people like kind of mention something about this, was that then it makes it seem like Black Widow's death didn't mean anything, or Tony Stark's death didn't mean anything, because there's this place where the Infinity Stones are worthless. But I'm like, that's not how it works. Like, there's a reason they're not worth anything. And to be completely honest, my, like, I guess like even more detailed description would be, one, I think personally the Time Stone's the strongest stone. Like, I personally believe that one is the biggest one. And I also think that's why Thanos wins the first time. He gets the Time Stone. The moment he got that, he controlled what would happen. If he doesn't get the Time Stone, he can't reverse time and get the Mind Stone from Vision. And this is the place that control is literally there. It's called the Time Variance Authority, right?
Yeah.
I want to make sure I got that right. They're not controlling time, but they're like watching over time. They're making sure time happens the way it's supposed to. And if that's to me, at that point, you're like, these really don't mean anything to this thing. They're not, like you mentioned, they're not within time and space. Like, they're an entire different thing. So why would the Infinity Stones have anything to do here? They don't have a reason to work there.
Right. And yeah, I saw some people saying that too, like, oh, so Black Widow sacrificed herself for an Infinity Stone and somebody's just using them for paperweights. And I saw that before I watched the episode, so I was like, I don't even know what they're talking about. And then I watched it and I was like, oh. I was like, but yeah, this is the TVA. Like, nobody's able to access the TVA, so it's not like Black Widow could just break into the Time Variance Authority and be like, let me use this.
I'm more intrigued with...
They'd be like, you're a variant.
Did they get these?
They would disintegrate her.
Yeah. I'm kind of more intrigued with, where did they get these? Like, at what point in time did, like, something go off track? And, like, I don't know. That made me more intrigued to see, like,
yeah,
what instances. Because, like, the Loki one was pretty easy to notice. Like, he gets the Tesseract when they're going back in time to get the Tesseract. Like, that one seemed a lot better. But I was like, man, what else happened? I really wanted to know.
Maybe there's a universe where Cap, like, did not take them back correctly and he was going to hold on to them, and they were like, nope, you're not allowed to do that. They had to confiscate them, because some of them were actually in the shape of the stone that goes on the gauntlet. So yeah, there's
I didn't think of that.
Yeah, so there's a few of them that had to have been from some sort of other bit where somebody had a gauntlet, and I don't know, it's interesting.
It's pretty cool. I didn't think of that.
Loki then asks, is this the greatest power in the universe? So, yeah, probably.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, these three people, the timekeepers, are able to decide the course of time. And I think maybe at some point, the TVA falls, almost like S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't think they can keep... I don't know if they can keep doing what they're doing. Because... it's almost like no free will at some points. I mean, they have free will, I guess, but like they can get disintegrated if they go off course, Pretty much they have free will, and the timekeepers say yes or no to what the free will is going. So it's not like the timekeepers are like, well, we'll make Thanos attack them and then they'll save it. It's like Thanos attacked and the timekeepers are like, all right, we'll just keep on this trajectory. This is fine. Oh, the Avengers are going to go back in time.
They already
they're like, maybe that's not okay. Yeah, they created like the flow of like, I think what they do is mostly watch stuff and think, is this okay? Right? Because
I think I'm on a different idea than that.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out how it goes. But I think I don't think they're like writing a story like, all right, this is how it's all going to go. I think people still have some sort of free will, and they're pretty much just sitting there like yes or no, because I feel like the Avengers going back in time, they could have been like, oh, we got to go get them, until they hear them say, we're going to put them back, type of thing. You know, like when Hulk is learning that from the Ancient One about the split, and he's like, well, what if we put them back? And, you know, all that kind of stuff. They may have been like, you know what? Let's just see how this goes. We're okay with this right now. I don't know. But also things, you know, like time, they already know what happens when they're not, you know, it's so confusing. Like,
That's where, to me, it's like, I think
because time is not linear there. So they already know what happens going forward too. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's where I was like, if they know what's going to happen in your future, then have they technically already like written this out? Do they already know what the plan is? And it's more so just there are these people like, you know, even in our world, like, was I supposed to get Dunkin' Donuts at 9 a.m. or at 10 a.m.? Like, how do I know?
9 a.m.
Is there a variant? Like, was there like, but in the show, it just seems like they've written it out. They like, that's the whole point of the Timekeepers. They wrote out the history of the world, of all the universe. And if somebody goes off of that, I don't know. It's an interesting
We'll see
concept.
at the end of the show, I guess, because I think why we're seeing this, I think, is because something's going to happen where it stops. Right, especially when they're talking about a multiverse war and it can happen again. Like, I think that like maybe the Timekeepers thought it was going one way, and something ultimately throws it off enough where things diverge too much and they get almost like overthrown, maybe. Because it is a lot for 3 people to be like, we got this.
But they're like all powerful.
I know. To be like, no, we got this. We're gonna decide everything. I could see somebody finding out about it and being like, "What?" Because we don't know how many people actually know about this. I assume most people don't, right? It's probably just
I feel like you're not
Loki
supposed
finding
to, because
out.
if you know it exists, it's because you are a variant.
Yeah, and you're not allowed to go back. Let's see where we leave off here. So Loki escapes. He stole the Time Twister. He finds the Tesseract. He goes back to the interview room once he has the Tesseract. He watches the rest of, I put in my notes, he watches the rest of the MCU of himself. Like, he watches Ragnarok, he watches Endgame and Infinity War, whatever. He watches all that stuff. I guess Infinity Wars, because that's where he dies. Then it says like end of file. And he's seen visually moved by his dad dying, by him, you know, Thor saying he's always like loved him or looked up to him, whatever word he used there. And then we have the guard who got him out of the desert comes in. He overtakes her, gets the neck brace off of him, puts it on her, and then just sends her away repeatedly with the Time Twister thing.
That was another funny scene. It had like a lot of deep moments in the episode, but then they would throw in like little bits and like pieces of funny banter, or like a scene like that, which I think I enjoy that kind of stuff with Marvel when they do that.
She goes like all the way back to, I think she even runs into the guy with the who had the Tesseract. Then Mobius finds Loki. He's back in the same room he's been in. And Mobius asks him if he tried to use the Tesseract. He's like, a few times. But he says a variant has been killing our Minutemen, and he needs his help. And he says, because the variant we are hunting is you. And then we flash to Oklahoma, 1858, with like a shovel that was like futuristic there, and some gasoline, and then a hooded figure burns the Minutemen by dropping like a lantern on the gasoline, and then he also stops the charge, like the rewind charge that they use. And we have a cloaked figure here. So I have a few thoughts about that. That was the end of the episode. I have a few thoughts about this I wanted to run by you. So there's a Loki in the comics called like female Loki, girl Loki, something like that. Or it could be maybe an older Loki. And the only reason I'm saying that is because we know it's a Loki variant. But I feel like if it was Tom Hiddleston, they would have just showed Tom Hiddleston, right? Like, I think the fact that they're cloaked, it's either like an older Loki that's not played by Tom Hiddleston, or maybe like a gender bent Loki that's not played by Tom Hiddleston. Because I don't know the point of keeping the hooded figure a surprise if not.
Yeah, I agree with that. I didn't think too. I hadn't really thought too much about it. I saw somebody on like a TikTok mention the like she Loki or whatever. Because like I said, I swear I don't know much about. I don't really know a whole lot in terms of comic book stuff, so I personally hadn't really heard of that. But I think that would actually. I think the female Loki might be better in terms of the multiverse, because then that's when you get. I mean, like you've seen the Spider-Man multiverse. There's the I forget her name. She's like,
oh yeah, Spider-Gwen.
Yeah, so like I know that it's possible, and I think that kind of sets it up better, because then you also have like the Spider Pig or whatever. I forget which one that is.
Yeah,
Spider Pig's Simpsons movie, but no, like I it's just not something I thought too deeply into, but I did hear somebody talk about the she Loki, or is that what it is? She Loki? It seems.
I don't know if there's an official name. I think she's just like Loki, but like a girl. So I always heard people say like female Loki, but like let me see.
I think that would be personally. I think that would probably be the best. I think that would be the best.
Lady Loki. There you go.
Okay, that sounds better. Lady Loki. I think that seems like the best possibility. Like I think that would be the best route for them to go on that.
Yeah, I actually think, who else is in this show? Somebody brought this up to me that I was like, oh, that would be cool, because I could kind of see that.
Is it Vince Vaughn? I feel like Vince Vaughn follows Owen Wilson already.
Richard E. Grant. So he also played one of the bad guys recently in Star Wars, Rise of Skywalker. He was General Pride on the he was like the older British guy.
Yeah.
He's in this show too. What if he's older Loki? That would be cool. Like a Loki that's just older and like has perfected
be
this whole
a variant.
Yeah. And he has, for some reason, his older age has gotten more brutal or something. The other thing I want to think of was, when the kid points at the picture of the devil, is he saying it because what the guy did was so evil, or is it that maybe Loki had on his horned helmet? You know how he sometimes has that helmet on, which could be like horns like the devil does. I don't know. I'm just spitballing there.
Yeah, I would think it's probably one of those two and not Mephisto. But I feel like I know that I don't know I know they didn't film these like where they could hear people, but it would be funny if that was filmed after all the people going like, oh my god, this person's Mephisto and this person, and then they just went like, yeah, we're gonna screw with them this time.
Yeah,
we're gonna make every episode. Yeah, it was I liked the ending. I actually liked more so when Loki was watching the clips.
Yeah.
From seeing like everything, you could tell what he did with his mother, like sending the people toward her, or toward like where she ended up getting murdered. You could just see like it was almost like he was like, there's no way I could do that. Like that's definitely not what happened. And I liked Owen Wilson. I liked Mobius being like, why do you want to hurt people? Why? Like, why do you do it? why do you want to hurt people? And then he sees, obviously he sees Odin like disappear when he passes away. And then when you watch him, somebody made a good point too, when he's watching the clip from Ragnarok where it's the clip where Thor thinks he's like not actually there, and then he actually is. It was kind of fun to see the joy, because there were moments in Ragnarok where you're like, God, man, if you could get Loki to be good,
Yeah.
like I remember that was the big thing with me and watching Ragnarok with Loki and Thor. I was like, if you can get him to be good, his character would be such a fun character. Like, and watching him actually fight alongside him at the end of that episode was great. And I mean, that's how he ends. Like, he actually ends very honorable when he gets killed by Thanos. Like, he's trying to do that. And it's fun to see. It was very nice to see him try to reverse the script for himself at the end, which almost to an extent you watch him watch this stuff and you're like, maybe this is how he does it. And, he's getting somewhat of a second chance, and he watches Thanos, who, to his knowledge, was supposed to be the guy helping him. Like, you got the Loki that was just working with Thanos, trying to take over New York, trying to take over the world. And all of a sudden he's like watching this thing, and then Thanos is stabbing him, or not stabbing, strangling him. And it just like to watch his attitude change. And that's when I knew, even when Mobius came back, I'm going to keep saying Owen Wilson just because it's
wow.
You see Mobius come back, and I was like, I knew when Mobius came back after Loki had watched all that, I was like, Loki's going to be like, yeah, like, what do you need? Like, it seemed like that's what he needed to see to get on board with what was happening. And I did like that last like 10-15 minutes. I thought it was really well done to kind of get you into the other 5 episodes.
Yeah, and what was really cool about it, like you said, is that I didn't really think of. Like you said, this is the Loki that just was working for Thanos, and then he sees Thanos killing him. Like, he's like, well, that did not work out. Why did I do all this stuff for him? And he's just going to kill me. So what I like about that is it almost catches this Loki up to where our Loki was, right? Mm-hmm. Where there's still some room for him to grow, but if we continue with this Loki at any point, he's kind of already on that path of redemption without having to go through all that stuff, because he already sees like, oh, I messed all this stuff up.
And you don't really see...
I don't want that to happen.
And like, you don't really see... After the Avengers movie, Loki really doesn't play like a huge role up until it feels like Ragnarok, Like
Dark World, he's in it a good bit because he helps get Thor. Dies. It's when he gets Thor out of there. They do the whole like fake hand getting chopped off thing with Thor, and then Loki fakes his death. Yep.
So it's like there isn't like, in the realm of the MCU, there wasn't a whole lot Loki would have had to have been like fully caught up on. And what I thought was interesting too, I forgot about mentioning it, but when he's watching that, he sees after him getting strangled, he sees the power. I think it's the Power Stone, right? That was it the power one that Thanos uses when he leaves.
Yeah,
he like destroys the ship. That's like, that Loki might only think that Thor is now dead too, and he has been the cause of all 3 of his family members dying. So now all of a sudden, he's like, great. So I'm the cause of my mom, and actually his dad just like, I'm not gonna lie, I don't fully understand that part. When
I think his dad was just old.
Yeah, I would say, but like, and then all of a sudden he's like, wow, I'm the only one. Like, it gets to a point where I'm now, this variant version of myself is the only person that's technically possibly gonna live. I don't know. It seemed like a lot of deep meaning. It was just nice, because I don't know if they could do it, but I would love to see like a good Loki in the upcoming Marvel like universe. And this, what was it like? It's Phase 4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to see like a good Loki. Like, even if it, I hope if the show works out, or I don't know how the show's going to end, but it would be kind of cool to see him have this chance to like maybe become the Loki that he kind of was at the end of Ragnarok.
Yeah, I think either they will, or we'll get a different variant, maybe there's like young Loki at some point in the comics. Maybe we get a young lady Loki that continues on. I don't know. I just don't know how much longer Hiddleston would want to do it, but you know, I don't know. There was rumors of a second season of this at some point, so I don't know.
I would be in.
I think if they said if they did, it would be a standalone from this season, so that's fine. If that's the case, like I think this is a standalone story. Like they're wrapping it up within this season, but yeah, there's rumors of them doing a second season of this. I just don't know how true they are. Yeah, I mean, I think I like that this one, I think, was paced better than any of the other starting ones so far, because I feel like now we've caught Loki up to what he needs to do, and starting next episode, they can hit the ground running with trying to catch this variant, right? While I think, you know, it took really, like, episode 2 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier caught them up, I guess, pretty good. Like, they met each other really early and continued what they were doing. But the first one of that was kind of like, took a while. You know, we focused on Sam getting alone. We focused on Bucky going to therapy, which was great character stuff. But for a 6-episode show, you're like, oh my, we got to get it going. And then WandaVision took really 4 episodes to really get to the heart of what we're doing here. So with this one, you get that in the first 50 minutes that, all right, you already had the character growth for Loki. He's ready to do this. He's paired up with Mobius. Let's go. And I like that.
Yeah, and I also think this, I mean, I enjoyed the other shows. I think I enjoyed WandaVision more than I expected, but I think I didn't enjoy Winter Soldier. Captain, God.
Whatever you want to call it. Captain America and then Falcon and then Winter Soldier, or Falcon and Winter Soldier.
And I think I enjoyed that one less than I expected. Sometimes it just felt like that one was always kind of missing something. It just didn't feel as good as I really wanted it. But this show doesn't have either of those feelings. This show feels like it's going to be as good as you expected, or even much better than you expected, because the character Loki, I will say the one difference obviously is Loki, I think, is a bigger character than the others. To the point, we've seen Loki a lot longer than the other characters as well. I guess Bucky to an extent we've seen a lot of, but you didn't really know too much about him. I don't know. This show feels it felt so much different. It felt like the right kind of pacing. It felt like everything they did was exactly how you would want it to go. Like that was the perfect first episode. It didn't have you asking like, still, what in the world is this show about? Like, that's how I felt about the first WandaVision. I was like, what? I still don't fully understand
that one. It was really good that they put two in there, but really by the end of 3 or 4, end of 3 is where it really kind of kicks off, but 4 is the one where you get all the background with Maria.
Yeah.
Maria, did I say? No, that's her mom, Monica.
And I think Falcon Winter Soldier, I think the problem that one had was, in a way, it felt like it bounced too quickly. Like it didn't really, it felt like something was missing because you didn't get as much detail as you had possibly wanted. Like they tried to maybe make things go a little too quick, or maybe they bit off a little bit more they could chew in terms of the storyline, because it kind of, toward the end, just everything ended a lot quicker than it felt like it built up to. I don't know. I'm definitely a lot more excited after the first episode of this show than the other two. And
makes me really excited for the second episode, because from all accounts that is the better one. So the fact that that's going to be better than what we just watched is pretty cool.
You know, Owen Wilson is such an interesting actor, because I feel people our age think, and I don't know, maybe people older than us too, Owen Wilson always felt like that, like the just kind of like out there rom-com guy who is kind of smart but also just seems unaware of his surroundings. Like that's what he always felt like he played that. You know, he was in like Wedding Crashers, and
Yeah.
I know he's in like Hall Pass. I've never seen Marley and Me because I have a thing where I don't like watching movies with dogs.
Yep, I have not seen that either. Nope. No thanks.
Because I don't like watching a movie with dogs because I know how that normally ends, unless it's like Air Bud.
Yeah.
But watching him play this Mobius character, I'm like, man, like he's good. Like he's got the same kind of comedy, I guess, like comedy voice tone. Like you could tell when he was like, oh, I thought you didn't like to talk. Like, or he's like, oh, you could start with my office. Like but then at the same time, he's like trying to dig this emotional background out of Loki, and he's like, why do you want to hurt people? And I don't know. I loved watching it, and like I said earlier, I think it's going to give us the interaction and what we wanted out of Sam and Bucky from Falcon Winter Soldier. I think is what we're going to get out of these two, which is exciting.
Yeah, I'm super pumped for this. I'm just ready to get episode 2. Now, the bad thing is this happens when I'm on vacation, so I'm really the good thing is I'll probably be able to stay off Twitter that Wednesday, probably. And I'll probably watch it either Wednesday night, unless if we're out late, and then I'll watch it like Thursday, because Thursday I'm not going to any parks, so I'll just probably wake up in the morning and watch Loki. So
there's not a whole lot on Twitter. I didn't see like anything on Twitter on Wednesday.
I follow a lot of Marvel people though.
Oh, that's probably why. Yeah, I don't follow.
Yeah.
Most of mine's sports.
Yeah, I have a lot of sports, a lot of Marvel, a lot of Pokemon. That's pretty much and Star Wars. That's pretty much my Twitter. Any other last thoughts on this episode before we head out?
No, I think I got all mine in. Yeah,
me too. I think I'll probably think of something as soon as we're off of here, but let us know what you thought of it. It's pretty good. Give us some feedback if you would like. You can reach us on Twitter at To Infinity Saga. That's TO Infinity Saga. Facebook.com/Infinity Saga Beyond, or email us marvelplusrecaps@gmail.com, and we will catch you next time.